Okay, here is something that's been on my mind for a while, and one of the things, but and that is, how do religions, Christian religions, different types of denominations, and even non-denominational, how do they handle this of the 7 deadly sins, when especially things like gluttony, which doesn't just mean when somebody overeats or overdrinks alcohol, but that's the big one in it. How do they handle that with all the movement, toward on the side of the weight, to not size shame people? I don't like to say fat shame, because fat is a derogatory word anyway, and it's meant to shame someone. When somebody says they're fat, it's meant to shame. So you're shaming no matter what. You know what I'm saying? That's how I see it. I know other people don't. I am a social and behavioral scientist, so, but still, some people, that's to each their own. But I don't like it. It's still saying something derogatory about people who are overweight. Okay, but so size shaming. How do people handle that? Like, they go to church. Now, the 7 deadly sins, which is something I did not know. First of all, I didn't know that it can be any Christian religion, any denomination or non-denominational. I thought it was Catholic. I always had thought that it was something people who are Catholic believe in. My mother was Catholic. Her mother was Catholic. She was raised in going to Catholic schools. And then she changed it when she got dementia as an adult. Most of her life she didn't go to church, or attend any kind, because I truly believe she had agoraphobia. So she didn't like to get out of the house at all. And she didn't like to get out of the master bedroom, really, at all. She'd go into the kitchen, wash dishes, and cook, and then rush back to the room, so, and that was how it was. I suffered from it too. One time when I was 28, and another when I was 33, and then they put me on medication for diabetes, and all my problems went away like that. All associated went away. So, yeah, it was a miracle drug for me. Anyway, I'm not saying that it would be for everybody, but I kind of went off here, but now, the thing about it is, okay, say the gluttony one, say if you're an overeater, and I think we've probably all seen, if you know anything about seven deadly sins, you've probably seen, like, they'll put up like little cards, that represent each one of them. And don't get me to try to say all of them, but I probably could. But let's focus on this one. Now, what they have is somebody who's really huge. It's usually a man. The picture on their card, what do you call those cards? But there's a man who's real big, and he's drinking big old cup of, like during the kingdom, times during kingdoms, like he was a king. He's drinking this big old whatever of wine or something, and eating a big turkey leg. Usually, quite often, that's what I've seen. And he's real huge. Okay. How do they handle that these days? Well, you don't fat shame people. As people say, see, it just came out of my mouth. I don't like to even say it. But size shame people. How they do it now? The churches. People go to the church. You can have people who are, large, obese, overweight to obese, different levels of obesity. How do they handle that without offending somebody? I mean, greatly offending somebody. Now, there are people like me, proven, I'm going to say it again, proven, with CT scans and all kinds of tests and everything, that I have a health condition since I was a child that makes me retain weight. I'm just going to put it that way, because like Adam had asked the doctor, but what is it exactly? And he said it could be both, stuff like this. And I won't go into great detail about it. And I tried that, and somebody two people at least try to steal it to grift off of, to get people's sympathy and such. And one of them maybe just was lying. Maybe he was telling the truth. You never know. It's so rare. It's something like 0.004% or 0.007% of the population, something like that. It's so small. And but anyway, I don't mention it anymore because it's just disgusting, and plus it's illegal from what I understand. I'm not a legal person, so I could be wrong, but it's illegal to say you have some kind of health condition to get money and so on and so forth when you're lying, and on and on. But I don't know, I could be wrong. Here in the United States, I could be wrong. I doubt it, but I could be. Anyway, so how do they handle it? How they handle, like me, other people could have this condition too, or something. There's not just one where they can try and try and try and try, and they still gain weight, or they keep the weight. They gain, or they stay large. It could be overweight. It could be whatever level of obesity. You know, and you know, when I mean, it's the same thing. It could be for schools too. I think the schools, they have, no tolerance for bullying, and that would be, they classify that under bullying. Now, some might not. I don't know. When I was in school, I didn't even know what the word bullying. We would never heard the word bullying. I mean, people would pick fun at, students would pick fun at other students for anything. I mean, you might have had a button missing on your shirt, and they're going to make fun of you, and you're the next thing that people keep making fun of. It didn't matter. And it was bad. It was really bad. And then what's funny is these schools, the school that I went to, the ISD, they didn't have all the bells and whistles that other ones did. It wasn't a wealthy school district area. I don't know how they do them. It was its own town and this whole school district. That's how I've seen all of them like that. But it wasn't a rich town. It wasn't a poor one. It wasn't a rich one. It was just a regular one. But they didn't have all the bells and whistles, and they churned out some very intelligent, seriously intelligent, creative even students. Really, back then. I don't know about now, but a lot of people moved when all the hurricanes started getting worse and tearing really bad, tearing places up. But like two of my houses that I owned at one point, I don't own them anymore. Nope. It was, this is a stream of consciousness here, isn't it? But anyway, how do churches handle that? You have kids who are going to go to school, and they're taught not to bully. They are taught not to talk about what other students, their ethnic group, their whether they're male, female, their size, their appearance, and their clothing. They're taught against elitism. Those who are wealthy and those who aren't. We all know that some of it still exists. Okay, we're not stupid. Okay. Some of it, but they work hard. When I was a career student in university, both undergraduate and graduate. Once I got my bachelor's degree, it was in two fields. I went on to worked on a post-bac, but I said no, thank you. Went on to master's, PhD level classes, graduate school, and by that time I had started working. Once I got my bachelor's degree, I wanted to, and I did, start working at teaching, doing substitute teaching. And they called me a visiting teacher because I had also taught at college and university, after, I continued to work. And after I got my, master's degree, then I also taught it using my own credentials, taught at college and university. My goodness, all this to say, I have seen every grade. I mean, my accent just came out. Every grade from pre-K all the way to taught every grade, to senior at university, taught every level. You know, whether it's substitute teaching, visiting teacher, or on my own at university. I don't go into great detail of that, can you tell? It sounds like I did, but I don't. There's much more to it than that, much more. But, and at every level, you know, it does seem like they don't tolerate that anymore. They don't tolerate any kind of bullying. They don't tolerate people saying, you're talking about people based on whatever, you know, whatever difference, you know, they just don't allow it. And you could get suspended or booted out, you know, boot. And I think that's changed, unfortunately. But it needs to exist. And, you know, when people go to work, I really don't know what it is now. I mean, things change, and I worry that it's becoming more and more people are doing it more and more. And I could be wrong. But I just recently had watched a series about, and basically it was about mainly people in their 20s. You know, it was a series. It was part of it was supposed to be kind of serious. It was a drama, but at the same time a little bit of comedy mixed in it. A little bit. It was mainly focused on drama. And I'm not going to say which one, but I was disgusted. Because I was disgusted by it. What they were doing was harmful, especially to females. What they were doing and saying, and how they were doing and saying it. You know, basically that you're only worth one thing. I'm like, oh my goodness. You know, and just harmful in many ways. And it wasn't about bullying. In a way, it was, but it was more like the bullied one becomes the bully. Okay, that's not good either. No bullying is a good thing. But anyway, it did make me think again about this, you know, the 7 deadly sins, and how are they handling, like the one I'm talking about, gluttony. You know, seriously, how do they handle that? And it wasn't handled very well. I mean, they weren't being bullied. Well, in some instances they were. But just the thing of, it's just so deep to me. But there's another one, you know, and it's about, I have another one that's similar to this, that's connected to this, and that's about ethnicity and religion. The various religions and what they teach. Like one of my neighbors, I'm going to use one of my neighbors as an example. She has a habit of telling everybody her business in person, you know, in the neighborhood. And she will say something negative about her husband. She told me, and then she later on, years later, she told Adam, you know, that she just says he's lazy. He doesn't do anything around the house, you know, this kind of thing. And she just says words, you know, things like that. Then she goes, and Adam told me, she told him, you know, recently, that women are supposed to mind, Christian women are supposed to mind men. And because I'm thinking what happened was he had gotten tired of her. She'd see him outside and she'd say something. And he'd say, well, why don't you talk to him about it? Why don't you tell him, you know, you need to do this. You need to be serious with her, you know, because he was probably tired of it. You know, if it's Christian, you don't meddle as it is. He's not Christian. So, anyway, he may have said that, and she told him that she probably, I'm guessing it is, she probably told him that she doesn't because she's supposed to, you know, I think the word is subservient to him, and that she is not supposed to try to tell him how to do anything. I don't like that. I don't appreciate that one bit, and he didn't like it either. Like I said, he's not Christian. He didn't like it. Her telling him that. that women are supposed to mind men. And he came from a country that it's pretty much common, that it's pretty much part of their culture. It is. He left that country many years ago, so, but, anyway. And I wonder, that's the second thing I wonder, is how these various people that come from, or the people who come from families, their families had moved here, and, I said I'm a social behavioral scientist. It's not really new to me, but I wonder these days, is in person, how like the generation that was born and raised here now, at this point, I know about histories, the history and all that and how it was before, but now, when their family is telling them one way, and that women are supposed to be this and that to men, and within the family, and they grew up here, they grew up in the school system here, and that's not the case. How do they handle it? The parents, or they, how do the children, once they become adults, is what I'm trying to say. Once they're adults and they can say no to their family and no, this, how do they handle it? And I have reasons for asking this at this time, this point. I know what it was like for many of them when I was young, and they were young, back when I was young, and it was kind of new. I had a pretty good idea. Okay, not everyone, every ethnic group, not every religion, every type of belief, but some. But I don't know about now, because there's so much with the no bullying at school, and then they're having to deal with parents who believe in a certain way about females. You see? Or the 7 deadly sins and gluttony. And think about how that twist, that can be very confusing to them, because they're taught it, and they're not taught in the school like in the class, but they're taught there's no bullying for these purposes. You can't bully at all. They don't say this one. You just can't bully. And then they have family members who want them to be different. That, the boys can do this and the girls can't. Like that. How do they handle it? Seriously. I mean, when I was growing up, here in Texas, and, I've said this story so many times, that, me and my friends joined the debate team, and, it was 3 of us, and there was a guy, 3 females, 1 guy, or maybe, yeah, but we were really thinking about going to just on the trips and such, but I was into it, the debate, and the teacher who went with us was a coach, football coach, and he was the one that was over the debate team. And he told me at one point, he says, well, the girls can't, teenage girls, y'all can't debate. I said, why? He said, because you're female. But why? Just because I'm female. That's just how it is. That kind of conversation. Excuse me? Now, nowadays, that would be no bullying, no, you can't, and that would be a form of bullying. In a way, no tolerance for all these different things. They're telling males that can do this, females that can do this, or this person, that type of person, that whatever. That wasn't allowed, and it's not allowed anymore. It could have changed. But how do they handle it? How are they handling it now? Anyway, and then like I said, I have good reason for this. I am, once again, basically around people from various, this has been the story of my adulthood, really, from various countries, seriously. My whole adulthood, I'm a social and behavioral scientist, and that was okay, so what? I mean, you spend a lot of time at university, you're going to see all kinds of people. And that was nothing to me. It didn't mean anything negative, positive, anything. It was just normal. That's my norm. I was a career student over 20 years. It's normal for me. But there are some people that it's not. And that can be pretty bad, too. But I don't know. But I'm around a lot of younger people now. People who were born, some of it, is the healthcare thing. And if they were born in a country or they were born here, and I wonder how are they handling it too? Not all of it is just one thing, but how do they handle the difference in what their parents say, like I was just saying, their parents say and the schools say? What they learn at school is very different than what they learn at home. That has got to be very confusing. Even saying it is okay enough. Okay, hey everybody, this is Grace. And here's one of the things. So there's two main things on my mind. One of them is this: how do religions, here in the United States, where they have, people who go to school, okay, and I'm talking, grade school, all the way through high school. It could be also university, but let's just stop at high school. I don't usually talk about kids, so I'm not going to really talk about them. But how do different religions handle when their child goes to a school and they try to, actually this is two of them combined, okay? No, that's not right.